And welcome to FISM News. I'm Samuel Case.
And I'm Renata Kish.
And tonight, Trump honors service members killed in the Afghanistan pullout.
Meanwhile, the Harris campaign tries to change the rules for the upcoming debate.
And the White House pressures Mark Zuckerberg to censor content on Facebook. Well, as I just said, former President Donald Trump yesterday honored the 13 U.S. service members who died in a terrorist attack during the Afghanistan pullout 3 years ago this week, laying wreaths in their honor at Arlington National Cemetery. Speaking before the National Guard Association later that same day, Trump said everyone in charge of the disastrous pullout should be fired, including President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris.
Our country will never be safe again until we have fired those responsible for this disaster. Nobody fired. Worst, most embarrassing, in my opinion, the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. It gave us Russia going into Ukraine. It gave us the October 7th attack on Israel, because it gave us lack of respect. We're not respected. We were respected very much 4 years ago. We're not respected now.
Neither Biden nor Harris were in attendance at the Arlington ceremony, as they were not invited by the families. That's according to White House spokesman John Kirby. Both of them instead released separate statements honoring the fallen soldiers, with Biden calling them, quote, patriots in the highest sense.
And at the same time, Trump earned Democrat-turned-independent Tulsi Gabbard's endorsement yesterday. The 2020 presidential candidate said one of the reasons she is endorsing Donald Trump is his record as commander-in-chief.
He exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief in exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners alike in the pursuit of peace, seeing war as a last resort. This is one of the main reasons why I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House, where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief.
She also juxtaposed Trump's presidency with the Biden-Harris administration's political witch hunt. Gabbard called on the public to reject this abuse of power and vote for Trump instead.
We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future. If you cherish peace and freedom as we do, I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country and elect President Donald J. Trump and send him back to the White House to do the tough work of saving our country and serving the people.
Her endorsement comes shortly after she was put on a terror watch list for no clear reason. Gabbard attributed the move to political retaliation, while her home state, Hawaii, has urged the government to remove the former congresswoman from the TSA terror watch list.
And of course, it's not just Democrats crossing the aisle this election cycle, as this week over 200 former aides to Republican presidential nominees signed a letter endorsing Kamala Harris. The group includes aides for George W. Bush, John McCain, and Mitt Romney. Many of them also endorsed Joe Biden in 2020, by the way. In their letter, they wrote, quote, "Of course, we have plenty of honest ideological disagreements with Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. That's to be expected. The alternative, however, is simply untenable," saying Trump would be a chaotic leader who would advocate the, quote, dangerous goals of Project 2025. Their endorsement comes only a week after former Trump press secretary Stephanie Grisham endorsed Harris at the DNC.
When I was press secretary, I got skewered for never holding a White House briefing. It's because, unlike my boss, I never wanted to stand at that podium and lie. Now here I am, behind a podium, advocating for a Democrat. And that's because I love my country more than my party. Kamala Harris tells the truth. She respects the American people, and she has my vote.
Now, as endorsements ramp up, expectations for a Trump-Harris debate continue to rise as well. But the two campaigns can't seem to come to a consensus on the matter. We go to FISM's Ian Patrick for the details.
The lead up to the September 10th debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump continues to heat up. Both presidential campaigns had confirmed that they would be attending this debate on the ABC network. But since then, Trump's mood has soured considerably on ABC. He's repeatedly accused the network of being biased against him and has even suggested that other networks try hosting the event. On Sunday, Trump posted to Truth Social saying, quote, "I watched ABC fake news this morning, both lightweight reporter Jonathan Karl's ridiculous and biased interview of Tom Cotton and their so-called panel of Trump haters. And I ask, why would I do the debate against Kamala Harris on that network? Will panelist Donna Brazile give the questions to the Marxist candidate like she did for crooked Hillary Clinton? Will Kamala's best friend, who heads up ABC, do likewise? Where is little George Slopadopoulos, as he writes, hanging out now? Will he be involved? They've got a lot of questions to answer. Why did Harris turn down Fox, NBC, CBS, and even CNN? Stay tuned." Then yesterday in Virginia, Trump reiterated that the network is unfair to him compared to the other ones that he's listed.
They can ask me tough questions. I don't mind. I think I've heard them all from you. I hear them every day. But I think it's very unfair. The single worst network for unfairness, I think, worse than CNN, worse than NBC, which is really hard to believe. And CBS is probably the best of the group. Fox is the best, but of the other side.
The debate still seems to be on, but both campaigns continue to squabble over the rules. Recently, both the Harris and Trump campaigns have actually turned their attention to whether or not microphones will be muted during the matchup. According to Trump spokesman Jason Miller, the agreed-upon rules for the debate are under the exact same terms as the CNN debate. This means that one candidate would be able to answer a question or respond to an attack without interruption from the other candidate, as his or her mic will be muted. But Harris's campaign reportedly wants to change this up and actually have microphones on at all times. And according to Harris spokesman Brian Fallon, this is supposedly meant to be a bane for Trump. Fallon told Politico they believe, quote, "Trump's handlers prefer the muted microphone because they don't think their candidate can act presidential for 90 minutes on his own." But Trump campaign's Miller shot back, accusing the Harris team of trying to change the rules at the last minute to, quote, "get out of any debate with President Trump." Now, Trump himself actually responded to this question of microphone muting, saying it doesn't really matter whether or not the microphones are on or off.
Would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine. I mean, ask Biden how it worked out. It was fine.
This is Ian Patrick reporting for FISM News.
Thanks for that report there, Ian. I just want to say, while Ian was giving his report there, we did get an update from Trump on his Truth Social. I'm just going to read a little bit of it right here. He says, "I have reached an agreement with the radical left Democrats for a debate with Comrade Kamala Harris. It will be broadcast live on ABC. That will take place on September 10th in Philadelphia." He says the rules will be exactly the same as the CNN debate. He says the debate will be stand-up with no cheat sheets. However, he did not say anything about the microphone, so we'll have to wait and see about that. Stay tuned for the details. We will give you the updates as they arrive. Meanwhile, we're more than a month out from the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump, and lawmakers are still digging around for answers as members of a bipartisan congressional task force investigating the incident toured the shooting site in Butler, Pennsylvania yesterday. There, Florida Republican Laurel Lee said their visit raised even more questions about what exactly went wrong on that day.
It is so important that this task force has the opportunity to do what we did here, to actually walk these grounds, to see this area, to get an understanding of the physical space and where this security shortcoming took place. And I'll tell you, for many of us, it raises more questions than we came here with today, because we can see it's not a large place. We can get a sense of the area and just how close these buildings were to that stage where President Trump stood that day.
But it might take some time before they actually get those answers, as House Speaker Mike Johnson says they're being slow-walked.
They've been digging in, getting the answers, and requesting documents. They have been slow-walked. That's the concern. So we're pressing go. We got to get the answers to the American people, and I'm confident our task force will get that done.
The task force has already had briefings with both the FBI and the Secret Service and is working to set up future meetings as well. Ranking Democrat Jason Crow of Colorado vowed that the task force will get those answers, calling the assassination attempt unacceptable. All right, and up next, Israel successfully rescues a Hamas hostage as Netanyahu is pressured to turn up the heat on Hezbollah. Those stories and more after this.
Are you new to biblically responsible investing? As Christians, we have the responsibility to be good stewards of the money God has entrusted us with. As we invest in the market, we want to make sure that the companies we invest in aren't taking money and using it to fund industries that grieve the heart of God, like pornography, abortion, gambling, or the LGBT agenda. That doesn't mean a company must be a Christian company to be biblically responsible. It means that company is solely focused on excellence in its industry and doesn't support things that God hates. To learn more about biblically responsible investing and how you can put it to practice in your portfolio, go to financialissues.org.
The mission of Financial Issues is to expose Jesus for all he is, all he means, and all that he can do.
On the day I found I was pregnant, I was full of emotions and I just was so overwhelmed, and I don't know if I'm ready for this huge life-altering, changing commitment. I had individuals around me not wanting me to have this child. And somehow, and I was driving and I saw the Women's Help Center sign and I immediately turned in. That just took relief off of me. And I was like, you know what? It's gonna be okay. They gave me the confidence and the support that I needed to be able to go out and face the world. First time I held Finnegan, I just lit up with joy. I was so excited. This little boy that I had in my life, he is loving and generous. Watching him just grow and flourish into this incredible human being has just been so rewarding and so uplifting. Looking back, I don't know what I would do without him because I needed him more than I think he needed me.
Hey, and welcome back to FISM News. I'm Samuel Case. We're going to turn now to the situation in Israel with some good news coming out of the war in Gaza today, where Israel announced it has successfully rescued a Hamas hostage in what IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari called a complex operation.
Today, Israeli special forces successfully rescued one of our hostages from Hamas captivity in Gaza. During a complex rescue mission, Qaid Farhan al-Qadi from the Bedouin community of Rat, who was kidnapped from Israel by Hamas terrorists during their massacre on October 7th, has been rescued. He is alive. He is back home in Israel.
Few details were given about the operation itself, other than that he was being held in one of the Hamas underground terror tunnels at the time of the rescue.
We cannot go into many details of this special operation, but I can share that Israeli commandos rescued Qaid Farhan al-Qadi from an underground tunnel following accurate intelligence. His medical condition is stable and he will undergo examination in hospital.
Medical officials likewise say he appears in good condition. Meanwhile, Israel estimates 108 hostages still remain trapped in Gaza. That number includes 8 Americans as well.
And this comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faces backlash for not launching a bigger offensive against Hezbollah's attack on Sunday. According to The Guardian, most of that criticism comes from his conservative coalition, though centrists in the displaced north were also unhappy with the Prime Minister's seemingly moderate response. Representatives from northern Israel have vowed to boycott meetings with other government officials for what they see as Netanyahu prioritizing central Israel's defense over the north. Conservative hardliner and national security advisor Ben-Gvir said, quote, "We must bring a decisive war against Hezbollah that will remove the threat in the north and allow the residents to return home safely." However, as of yesterday morning, Israeli strikes continued in Lebanon. State media and eyewitnesses say that the border village Ter Harfa and the coastal city Sidon have been the targets.
Elsewhere, 7 people are dead in Ukraine today after Russia sent more than 200 missiles and drones into the country yesterday in an attack that Kyiv is saying was targeting key energy and water supplies, leaving many there without power or drinkable water. Targets also included gas and power stations as well. The attack is believed to be part of an effort by Russia to destroy Ukrainian infrastructure before the winter, when, of course, electricity and heating are most needed. Ukraine's Air Force commander described the attack as the most massive of the war to date. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is vowing to retaliate.
And some other concerning news here. A Chinese aircraft breached Japanese airspace earlier today in the first known incursion since record-keeping began 70 years ago. The Japanese military reported that it scrambled fighter jets after a Chinese spy plane entered its territory. It crossed near Nagasaki and stayed for roughly 2 minutes. The spy plane then reportedly circled for some time just outside of Japanese airspace. Tokyo launched a complaint to the Chinese embassy following the movement. China is believed to have transgressed Japanese airspace twice before in a contested area, but those involved a propeller plane and a drone. Today's incident marks the first time Beijing's first transgression with a military plane and in an undisputed territory.
Very concerning news there. Elsewhere in Europe, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz pledged to increase deportations earlier today following a mass stabbing that killed 3 and injured 8 others. A Syrian asylum seeker with suspected ties to ISIS has confessed to those stabbings, creating a political flashpoint ahead of Sunday's regional elections. Now, Scholz's conservative opponents are using the attack to go after his immigration policies, prompting the chancellor to step up deportations.
We will do everything we can and must to ensure that those who cannot and may not stay in Germany are repatriated and deported.
It's actually the third time in a year that Scholz has promised to increase deportations from Germany, claiming they've increased by 2/3 since 2021.
And French President Emmanuel Macron weighed in on the recent arrest of Telegram CEO Pavel Durov this week. Macron defended the controversy in a social media statement, saying the arrest of the Telegram president on French territory took place as part of an ongoing judicial investigation. This is in no way a political decision. French prosecutors confirmed earlier this week that Durov is being charged with 12 counts relating to controversial moderation decisions on his messaging app. Prosecutors have accused him of facilitating a platform for child pornography, drug trafficking, and fraudulent transactions. Additionally, French authorities are seeking to punish Durov for providing an encrypted messaging app and not sharing user messages with law enforcement. His supporters, including ex-CEO Elon Musk, have criticized the arrest, claiming that Durov's decisions were in the interest of privacy from government surveillance and free speech. Now, earlier this week, the Kremlin also criticized French officials for arresting Durov, who is a Russian citizen, requesting in a statement that authorities ensure the protection of rights. And we have plenty more news coming up next. We'll be right back after a moment in history.
Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. In this moment in history, let's explore a man who is remembered as one of the most notorious traitors of all time. After Judas Iscariot and the Roman Brutus, this man is considered the most traitorous in Western history. At the birth of the United States during the Revolutionary War, he turned his back on his cause and his country. He was once an American hero, but would ultimately defect to the British side. You probably know his name well, Benedict Arnold, notorious American traitor. Now, though his first name actually derives from the Latin word for blessed, his name has come to represent all things treasonous and backstabbing, especially in American lore. Arnold was born in 1741 and raised to be a military man. He fought in the French and Indian War as a young man, and after the war he married and had 3 children. His wife unfortunately died at a young age in 1775, the same year that the colonies declared war against the British. When the war began, Arnold enlisted in the American Army. Now, Benedict Arnold's story arc almost seems like it's something out of a movie. Before he would become a villain, he was an American hero. He suffered a leg wound in a battle in Canada in 1775, but returned to lead the Americans to a crucial success at the Battle of Lake Champlain. Arnold played a vital role in the Battle of Bemis Heights in 1777, bypassing orders from his superiors to gain an upper hand on the British. The plan worked, and this victory contributed greatly to the French joining the American cause later the next year. But here's where the story of Benedict Arnold begins to change. After re-injuring his leg, he was appointed military governor over the crucial American city of Philadelphia. Sources say he lived like a king but could not pay for it. This debt, coupled with the fact that Arnold held a fierce grudge against the American military for refusing to give him the promotion he felt he deserved, led him to commit treason. While serving as governor, he began conspiring with British Major John Andre to purposefully deliver the established American base at West Point, New York, to the British. His reward would be both monetary to pay for his many debts and a high position in the British military. Before the plan could come to fruition, however, the Continental Army captured Andre. Arnold then abandoned his post in Philadelphia and escaped to a British encampment before he too could be captured. As it turns out, Arnold's treason backfired. It lit a fire in the belly of the patriotic cause for the colonists, who were enraged upon hearing news of the devilish governor of Philadelphia who betrayed his country. The Americans used that fuel to win their freedom from Great Britain in 1783, and Arnold was forced to flee to England. He lived out his remaining days there until his death in 1801, forever remembered as one of the most wicked traitors in American history. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.
Tragically, and all too often, a young mother in an unplanned pregnancy is in crisis. You can be there for her by giving a life-changing ultrasound through preborn. Seeing her baby on ultrasound is a game changer, doubling the chances she will choose life from 40% to 80%. For only $28 a month, less than $1 a day, you can show a mom her baby on ultrasound.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Welcome back to FISM News. I'm Renata Kish. Well, let's shift to some news in culture. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has delivered his strongest criticism of the Biden administration yet for pressuring them to censor certain COVID content. Zuckerberg stated in a letter addressed to House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan that in 2020, the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. He added that although it was ultimately his company's decision to take content down, they are now owning up to those choices. Zuckerberg also said that he regrets not speaking up about the issue sooner. He writes that from now on, Meta won't favor either administration, and the company will be ready to push back if something like this happens again. The Facebook founder also promised that he won't make any financial contributions this election cycle, and that he plans to be politically neutral moving forward. This comes as some have accused him of unfairly aiding Democrats in the 2020 elections.
And keeping with some free speech issues today, a federal court has ruled earlier this month in favor of an Ohio Christian teacher named Vivian Garrity, who claims her First Amendment rights were violated when she was forced by the school to use students' preferred names and pronouns. In her ruling, District Court Judge Pamela Barker criticized the school district for requiring a teacher to, quote, utter what was not in her mind about a question of political and religious significance. Garrity argued that the school's policy would, quote, force her to embrace the concept of gender identity against her religious belief that God created two unchanging sexes.
And in some more legal news, a Texas judge is temporarily blocking a recent Biden administration policy that allowed illegal immigrant spouses of U.S. citizens to be considered legal. U.S. District Judge J. Campbell Barker's decision went into effect shortly after 16 states challenged legislature. The states said the administration bypassed Congress for blatant political purposes when they enacted the policy. Texas is one of the leading states in the complaint, claiming that illegal immigrants have cost tens of millions of dollars for the state in healthcare, law enforcement, and other expenses. Trump-appointed Judge Barker has ruled that the claims are substantial and warrant closer consideration than the court has been able to afford to date. According to the AP, both sides have until October 10th to file their briefs in the case.
And in the fight for life, a Chicago pro-life pregnancy center was vandalized last week after the final night of the DNC. The faith-based help center was forced to cancel all its Friday appointments after vandals cemented the doors shut and coated windows with red paint, also painting outside "fake clinic," the words "fake clinic" that is, as well as the words "the dead babies are in Gaza." Again, that was painted outside the building. The vandalism was caught on camera, and authorities are now investigating what happened. It happened only hours before Democrats for Life planned to donate diapers and wipes to the clinic, a protest against the radical pro-abortion messaging at the DNC itself, which, as we reported here at FISM News, offered free abortions from Planned Parenthood.
Definitely concerning, but lastly, street evangelists faithfully preached the gospel through the chaotic demonstrations that ensued at the DNC last week. Chicago for Christ, a multinational congregation, sent an evangelism team to stand outside the convention security perimeter. They shared hope and truth with communists, feminists, and transgenders. While they reported some hostile encounters, the evangelism team also says most people were receptive to the good news and wanted prayer. They shared one encounter with an anti-Israel demonstrator who harassed them for half an hour. However, the street pastor then returned the young man's lost cell phone, which gave them a chance to share the gospel with him. God continued to work in Chicago after the convention's end as well. Over the weekend, thousands of Christians trained in evangelism before joining a Jesus March.
That is truly incredible, and it also takes a bit of bravery because we played some of the clips of those protesters, and they, let's just say they're a little hostile, so have to be pretty brave.
Yeah, but I believe this is the right move, and this is what Christians should be doing.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, well, that's our program for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and please visit FISMnews.tv for more content.
And for any updates until our next show, you can check us out on social media at FISM News on your favorite platforms, or you can download the FISM app to take us on the go. Thanks so much, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow night with more news coverage.